morning. It's Ginny and Tim
Hello.
at DS Tech, and we are talking about the compliance clock is ticking. It really is.
Sounds so serious.
I know, right? And what you can do to protect yourself as this clock ticks down.
I guess.
It's ominous.
Yes.
But it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll talk about that. If you have any questions, drop them below the video. We would love to answer them and let us know your opinions and what you think about what you're going to do.
Yes. So.
In regards to this ticking clock. So what do we got?
So it sounds scarier than it actually is. The main topic of the podcast today, or the thing we're doing is episode, is going to be Windows 10 has officially reached the end of support in October 14th, 2025, which at the time of the recording is done. It's in the past, right? So there's still a lot of devices out there which haven't either been upgraded to Windows 11 or they still haven't added the extended service upgrade on it, which we'll talk about that later and how you can, your path forward and out of this. But we're going to talk about how having an end-of-life system can impact you for various things like insurance renewals, or realistically, even if you're in a compliance industry, a regulated industry, you really need to have a latest device that has the latest updates, and we'll go into some of those specifics right now. So unsupported operating system is basically a red flag. So whether you fall under HIPAA, PCI DSS, GLBA, or any other framework, it will basically be a ding, and you'll have to either plan for it or upgrade it sooner than later. A lot of times, if you could potentially even get fined just if you're completely negligent, all that kind of stuff going forward, and they tell you about it and you're still not fixing it, all that kind of stuff. So why an unsupported operating system is a compliance risk? Well, when Microsoft ends support, there's some things that happen with your operating system. There's no more security patches, which is the big one. They're not spending time researching and fixing the security patches. There's no vulnerability remediation and no vendor accountability. So it just goes in there from the means that newly discovered exploits will not be fixed. And from an auditor's perspective, this signals that there's known vulnerabilities are accumulating, the risk management is not being maintained, and again, it's just you're increasing that chance of something actually happening on the system, the more it just goes unpatched without it being updated. In an audit, unsupported systems often trigger a deeper investigation into patch management process. They may be like, well, how are you even doing this? It may have them kind of look at you in more detail, and you don't want that. You want to pass your audits really quickly, right? So asset inventory and having risk asset documentation is important, especially with HIPAA. A lot of times in the past, it used to be you didn't need to have your live inventory, meaning you had a rough idea of where your computers were, but now they're getting to the point where if you have a new computer swapped out, you should be updating your inventory with the new name, removing the old one, so that way if an auditor were to ever come in, you can just hand them the list, here's all of our devices, and that includes your workstations. Sometimes you want to also include like any company-issued cell phones or edge case devices such as routers or firewalls that are protecting your network. All of that stuff should be on your asset inventory, and we can help you with that. If you're one of our clients, we can easily.
Doesn't some of our software automatically do that?
Parts of it. Our software can automatically pull all your workstation endpoints because our software is installed on all your workstation endpoints, but that's still not going to get like all the firewalls and all the extra stuff like that too. But
we manually document.
Yes, and then we can either put it together for you as well and help you with that process if you're a client of ours for sure. Gotcha. So the biggest one with HIPAA, it could potentially raise an Office of Civil Rights violation if you have basically, that's what they call if you had a risk violation. So if the current risk analysis identifies unsupported systems, a remediation plan did exist, and management took timely corrective action, it could be fine. But if you're ignoring it and you're just kind of keep pushing it, eventually it could potentially come down with fines, things like that. In PCI DSS is for basically people that are doing different credit cards and things like that. So it doesn't explicitly say here, but yeah, so basically installing vendor supplied security patches within appropriate timeframes, again, addressing the known vulnerabilities. If a vendor no longer supplies patches, you cannot meet this requirement. So therefore, organizations handling credit card data, consequences could include failing your assessment, mandatory remediation projects, again, fines, loss of merchant privileges. Even at the worst case scenario, they just say, you can't operate credit cards in your business anymore until you prove that you're doing it in a secure manner, right? That's the worst case scenario. And similar to financial institutions, In organizations handling consumer financial data, obviously that's very important. You need to make a very strict level of security and requirement if you're handling everyone's financial data, and it's going to have their personal information and all that stuff. So similar, they're going to go through that. If you have these old systems, they're going to easily find them, call them out, and hopefully you have a plan to upgrade them, or you already have maybe the extended service agreement on them now, and then you're planning to replace it by the end of the year. There's a couple things we'll go into on how to do that. There's additional frameworks to consider beyond just HIPAA, PCI, GLBA, all these different acronyms we're saying. Basically, what this just means is you're working in an industry where there's a certain set of rules and laws that you need to apply to in order to meet the requirements, in order to be secure, and it's meant with your customers' data at the end of the day. You want to protect your customers' data, so it does serve a good purpose. And so and obviously if something were to happen, it does talk about a little bit of reputational and contractual risk, right? So beyond regulations, considering if anything ever did happen to your business because you had a breach, and it turns out it happened to be because you just had an old system you didn't want to patch, and sometimes the reputational damage can surpass that of just the monetary. Even if you were to be hit and it was just this fine or fee, you got beyond it, you updated the system, sometimes you could potentially lose some customers, or if you actually had a true breach and you had to notify everyone of that, that's going to cause a lot of reputational harm, and they say the average is like 7 years almost to completely rebuild. So that's a lot of time.
When you break trust, that's what happens, and even if it's not intentional, right? I don't know about you, but now that I've been working here, and we talk about these security things all the time, I'm looking for it.
Right.
When I'm working with people online, I'm looking for
Yeah,
their
type
security.
in the news, be like, has this company had a breach or
No,
anything,
I'm looking for MFA when I make an account.
Yeah.
I'm looking for,
So when you set up an account in a website, if it allows you to type in there and set up MFA right out of the gate, or it almost pushes you in that direction, that's a more mature platform for sure. Where you have to hunt in your settings and enable it, and it's this
Then I'm like, I don't know if I want to put my data in here, right? So then I'll go find someone else to buy it from.
No, that's a very good point too. That's awesome.
There is that.
Yeah. And so kind of the different paths forward, right? So we've talked about, you have these Windows 10 devices, and something we didn't kind of dive into too much here is sometimes you can't just upgrade it to Windows 11. If you notice this year, there was a certain thing called a TPM2 chip that you need to have. So it's a physical processing chip that handles security on the motherboard. So even if your computer can handle everything else but that, it would not qualify for an upgrade. And there's other few things in there too.
Mine doesn't qualify.
Yeah, certain basically processors and certain things like that, you just couldn't upgrade. And so at that point you were, I don't want to say forced, but you had to get a new system that would meet the requirements to upgrade. And a lot of businesses, obviously, you can't just replace all your systems sometimes, and I totally get that. So if that's the case, you can pay for what's called an extended security update. The first year is $61 per device. So if you had 10 computers, you're paying $610, and now you have an entire year to basically plan and replace and upgrade those devices. So that's probably the best option at this point. If you're watching this video and you're still kind of behind, chances are to just go ahead and get a bunch of Windows 11 computers and get them ready to go probably isn't going to be the most efficient route. Your route probably at this point would be to get the extended service upgrade, then plan for your hardware replacements before the end of the year, ideally, and I think October or whenever this one runs up, because I think it's the year from when the October happens. So, and then it does ramp up. So if for some reason you're taking too long to get your new devices and you go into year 2, it's going to cost you $121 per device. So now or $122.
It doubles. It doubles each time.
So each device. And then after that, if you're still hanging around 2027 to 2028 on these devices, it's going to cost you $244 per device. And at that point, even with the crazy cost of RAM and storage right now, you're still better off to probably just get that new device, invest in it long term, because then it will be good for all the Windows 11 updates and then going into the future if you can. So that would be, I know it's hard. It's every business is different and all that kind of stuff, but it's very important to keep your security ahead of the game, because really if something happens, it can cause a lot more damage than the cost of preventing it in the first place and just making sure you're up to date with everything like that. So
it's the way technology is. I mean, in general, we usually say you should be replacing stuff every 3 years, servers every 5 years. So, right? That's a general rule of thumb.
And it all depends. I get it. You have that laptop that you like, and typically sometimes like Mac devices, they can kind of hang on sometimes longer. I've seen.
That's true.
But generally, yes, having that
Well, it'd be for your workstation too. A PC workstation will kind of
for sure, compared to
last longer, because I had a customer that used to consistently, he loved buying the big, really fancy ones, but they lasted him 5, maybe even 7 years, and then he's like, oh, time to replace.
Yep. And that's the thing. Yeah. If you have like maybe like an engineer who's got like a CAD workstation, right? He's got like dedicated graphics cards, 128 gigs of RAM. It's just this powerhouse of a beast computer. Realistically, do you need to replace that every 3 to 5 years? Probably not. You might get to stretch it out 5 to 7.
They're almost like mini servers, kind of.
Pretty much. It's like my home gaming system. It's like every 8 years I'll get a new one, and then I'll just get, and by upgrading the individual components. But most business computers, they just kind of come locked in without those specialty components. But yes, there are definitely edge cases for beefier devices.
Yep, the normal business computers are like 3 years.
Right. So, if you're seeing this episode and you're thinking, where am I at? Where do I stand? All that stuff. If you're a client of ours, reach out. We can definitely do a Windows 10 inventory review for you. Get you what you still have outstanding. Get you those extended security updates applied, and get you in a good standing, so that way you can come up with a plan to replace them by the next year. And we can also determine if your current systems maybe could be upgraded to Windows 11 without, doing that as well. And then again, just to kind of reiterate, Windows 10 support did end on October 14th of 2025. So if you get the extended security updates, they will last until that date this year. And then at that point, you'll have to pay that $122 per device to kind of linger on going forward.
Yeah.
So pretty much, just if you're not sure where you stand, now's the time to evaluate, reach out. If you're not a customer of ours, reach out. We can have a discussion and help you. We do an inventory audit of everything you got, come up with a good plan for you. And if you're an existing client of ours and you're curious, just the same thing, reach out.
Absolutely.
We're more than happy to help.
dstech.net, that's where you can contact us. So if you put in your name and all that good stuff, it'll open up a ticket and somebody will get in touch with you. So, make it a great day. We'll see you next time.